Well, let me shift swiftly over to my Detroit Tigers, unless you wanted to rake me over the coals anymore with the Cubs situation.
No, but here's a team I'd be a little more optimistic about.
That's interesting because I that's fascinating actually because the Tigers. I am actually more optimistic, even though they're not even close to the same kind of position that the Cubs are in.
Yet they are closer to winning the division.
Well, that's all circumstantial based on the ridiculously mediocre competition both divisions find themselves. But
Well, I don't want to derail your segment
you've
because
already derailed it, but
I
that's
know.
fine. It's a
But
thirsty Thursday.
but let me just point this out to you. Everything's just reversed for the Tigers. In if you're just looking at games out, they're 5 out of the division, which 6.5 out of the wild card for the Cubs, and they're 9 out of the wild card, but the Cubs are 8 out of the division. So
I love that you're looking at wild card standings for my teams, but I haven't even looked at those. So
you should be equally, if not more, optimistic for the Tigers.
The huge difference between the two franchises are expectations and essentially resources. The Tigers are not expected to do anything. I've never expected them to be buyers at the deadline or to be contenders in this division going in. I named my fantasy baseball team this year the Motor City rebuild because we are entering yet another rebuild directly on the heels of El Avila's failed rebuild. So the expectations are radically different. So that's why my attitude, maybe yours, is even shaped by that. I find the Tiger situation much easier to deal with. I'd be happy kind of either way with what the Tigers might do on trade deadline day on August 1st. Interestingly enough, Scott Harris mentioned during the All-Star break that if the Tigers got off to a hot start coming out of the break, they might have to change, their modus operandi. They might have to figure out, maybe we're not sellers. Maybe we can make a move here that would make sense to actually propel us towards a shitty division title. And believe it or not, the Tigers have come out hot in this second half of the season after the trade deadline. They're now 5-2 after this afternoon's game victory in Kansas City. You might say winning a series in Kansas City should be expected. That's fine. You just got to do it. The cool thing is, right out of the break, they actually beat Seattle in a 3-game series. They won the series 2-1 in Seattle.
Impressive.
Yeah, that was kind of set the tone. I'm hoping it set the tone for the second half here.
I mean, question: what's more impressive, going 5-2 against the Mariners and Kansas City, or going 3-3 against the Washington Nationals? Yeah. Who the other shit team the Cubs played?
It was Boston.
Boston, yeah. What's more impressive? I don't know. I'm more excited about the Tigers.
That's the thing. Again, I wasn't expecting them to win 5 out of 7, and they've done that all on the road. Not that Seattle is a world beater or anything, but winning on the West Coast is trouble for AL Central teams in general.
Sure is.
Over the decades. So that's been really fun to watch. The bats have really come to life. A lot of home runs. Kerry Carpenter had a few home runs. Who's going to show up on our Badass of the Week nomination. He did quite well in Seattle. Torkelson had a 2 home run game 2 nights ago in Kansas City. The much maligned Torkelson, who I'm going to be the champion of for all the Tigers fans who are calling him a bust already before he's even close to 1,000 plate appearances his major league career. I just heard a stat the other day. He is the first Tiger since Hank Greenberg, Hall of Fame Hank Greenberg, to have whatever stats I forget exactly the stats are, but as a 23-year-old, he's essentially trending like Hank Greenberg at this point, and yet Tigers fans are freaking out.
Not good enough for Tigers fans.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's mainly annoying radio show callers, so it's not all Tigers fans by any means. But I'll I'll do a weekly segment about Torkelson somehow, just to assuage the fears that he might be a bust. So it's interesting. The Tigers have San Diego coming into town this weekend. They actually play one game against your San Francisco Giants, a makeup game from earlier in the season. I forget they play the Angels after that. So those are maybe winnable games.
The Angels might not have Ohtani when they play them then if they're playing them after that.
That's a possibility. You never know, but I kind of don't know what to think of the Angels even with Ohtani because they don't win nearly enough as they should if you look at the paper. Although they did just sweep the Yankees, I think. So
yeah, Yankees are like that one year. They just have fucking fallen apart, man.
Love it.
I love it. I love it.
The question is if somehow the Tigers do continue this hot streak for the next week or so, or 10 days, do they become buyers? It just sounds absurd, but I think again, I kind of mentioned this during the Cubs segment. I'm not sure I'd want them to become like crazy buyers. I definitely don't want them to try to, go after Ohtani or something like that and just completely gut the farm system. That's absurd. I think more what they could do is kind of stand pat, kind of not trade away really increasing value assets as Michael Lorenzen, who just went another shutout 7 innings today. Eduardo Rodriguez went 7 innings yesterday in a victory. Though I think it's almost like they should just hold on to those guys. Lorenzen, of course, is on a 1-year deal. He explicitly said he came to Detroit in this offseason. He chose to come here because he knew the Tigers organization would make him better. And that was really, really an interesting comment. I believe I brought it up on the podcast at the time or around the time. That's a ringing endorsement from someone who has no skin in the game other than his own career. He's endorsing the coaching staff and the training departments of the Detroit Tigers, which I have never heard of, at least during the Alavila regime. I think it speaks to the faith that free agent, just the reputation across the league that AJ Hinch and more importantly for pitchers, pitching coach Chris Fetter have in finding ways to make the pitching staff as good as it could possibly be, maximizing their potential. And we've seen that. The Tigers have been abysmal, but the problem over the last several years has not been the pitching. It's all been on offense. That's where the issues are. Like I said, they've had in 2022, they had 17 different starting pitchers, and yet their staff ERA was not that bad. The bullpen has been amazing again this year. We've had 14 starting pitchers in this season alone already, and yet we keep finding ways. The problem with the Tigers has been offense. So I kind of would like the Tigers to just, if they go on this, have another good week next week, go hold on to those expiring assets and maybe not add. I'm not sure. I don't want to trade for Josh Donaldson or somebody like that from the Yankees. Cool. I heard suggested, who's got crazy numbers this year. I don't know if you've seen this, but
he's in Yankee Stadium too, and that's
exactly
that's where the difference is happening.
Yeah, he's got
for an offensive player from Colorado. Good luck.
You're making my argument for me, but he's got 15 hits on the year, which is pathetic, but 10 of those are home runs.
Yeah,
that speaks to the miniature golf course of it seems like every ballpark in the AL East is. They're all ridiculous to me, but
plus he's not a good.
He's a dick.
Guy. Yeah, he's not a good clubhouse guy.
So maybe Josh Donaldson wasn't a good example, but it's just something I've heard brought up.
But
radio. But I would rather see them hold on to their pitching staff. Hope that Lorenzen maybe loves his time in Detroit so much that he just re-signs next year. Eduardo Rodriguez even mentioned yesterday that he he's happy in Detroit. That doesn't mean he's going to stay. He's not going to opt out of his 5-year deal, which he can after this season. He said he's making plenty of money and he's happy in Detroit. So he's trying to send signals at least to the fans that he's not ready to jump ship. I'm sure Scott Harris and the front office of the Tigers knows more about that, what the realistic possibilities are. But I say hold on to the staff that has done quite well, and promote from Triple-A to find your offense, because there are plenty of options that are knocking the shit out of the ball at Triple-A Toledo right now. Chief among them is Colt Keith, who I think could be called up into August and solve their third base issue. We could also call up Justyn-Henry Malloy to help in the outfield, or DH, or wherever he needs to be. Parker Meadows is another name that you'll hear a lot of going forward. Oddly enough, brother of Austin Meadows, which makes me a little nervous, but of course we haven't heard of any mental health issues with his younger brother Parker, so who's also knocking out home runs in Toledo right now. So I think the Tigers can solve some of their problems internally if they're willing to call up their minor league players, maybe a year early, maybe a couple months early, as most of those players I just mentioned are projected to be potential opening day roster positions next year. So I guess it's fun. It's fun speculation. That's a very conservative, I guess, approach, where we're not giving away assets. We're just maximizing what we have in the system to potentially move forward. Of course, who knows what any of those players, when they get called up, what they'll actually do at the major league level. But I kind of like the idea of not trying to go for it, but not giving away anything of our pretty thin, admittedly, farm system. We can't afford to be trading away much of that to get like a short-term gain. So I don't know. You seem more supportive of my philosophy with the Tigers than you do with the Cubs.
I think your philosophy with the Tigers, of standing pat, can win the division. I don't think the Cubs can stand pat and win the division. I think they do have to trade.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And because they've proven right now that they can't win. The Tigers have been within 3 fucking games of this division recently.
Yeah.
And then they went on a little bad streak. And the difference is I think the Cubs are pretty healthy. The Tigers just keep getting healthier.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to get healthier. And, the Tigers trade could be, just going to run this by you. It's like it's a little bit of a Sox philosophy sometimes. So you don't get like that big star player, but getting someone who's controllable. So they're not just for this year. They don't have to trade like a top star, but get someone who's like mid-level, but could be a boost for the team.
Yeah.
Maybe one player offensively. I don't think they need to do that much because of the division they're in.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know why I fucking hate the Tigers, but I'm also like, I'm going to be honest about it. And I look at them and I see their trend upward, and I see them as a worrisome team next year for, well, I don't even know what the fuck the Sox, and we'll get to that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But like, they're a worrisome team if you're thinking of contending in the division next year, because their trend is upwards. The money that is coming off the books, which is another reason probably not to do too much. Why tie yourself up when you're going to be able to be active in the free agent market next year? Why trade something away when you're going to have money to fucking buy what you want next year and have those great talented young players there? So
yeah,
I get your philosophy. Your philosophy is solid. I'm saying maybe there's a possibility to swing something, that is
minor deal that doesn't cost big prospects.
Yeah, that's a plus. And then you don't have to worry about maybe mentally, moving someone up too early and then causing them like that mental stress of, oh, I didn't perform in the majors. And then sends them in
Yeah,
that downward spiral that happens sometimes. So I don't know. I mean, also, if they don't do anything, if they just stand pat and do what you said, I think they can still win the fucking division. So I
that's
mean,
that that's my really conservative way to go. I think that's very plausible. I don't think that they're gonna win the division, even if they do everything I think they should do. I think it could be there, but I also think this is a bonus year. This is Scott Harris's
yeah,
first year on the job. Just don't do anything to fuck up the future,
yeah,
like you
100%.
said.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, every time I talk about the Tigers, I talk about all I really wanted out of the season is just entertain me, and they are doing that, and they are certainly doing that this week. But they've done that throughout the season. They did not do that for even a month of last season. So
No,
I,
they did
I
not.
appreciate what they're doing now and what Scott Harris is building. So don't fuck it up at this point.
Word Hole Media.